About speaking tonight, and one of the things that many new speakers have to overcome is self-marketing or self-promotion, because they've not been used to doing that in the past. So the question is, do you want to have credibility fast and not have to feel like an imposter? Well, when it comes to dealing with certain topics, you can be in 3 different states of mind, or 3 different states of fact, actually. Now, the first one is, state number 1, you can be a reporter. You can report on what other people know. And as long as you are honest about that, then you are highly credible as to what you're talking about. It may not be that you have personally experienced some of the things that you're talking about, but you are reporting on what other experts have done. And so that is credible as long as you tell about it. Now, is knowledge gained this way? Legitimate knowledge? Well, it certainly is, because that is the knowledge that many college graduates have before they actually get on the job. They have learned as being a student, and then they share that knowledge with others. State number 2, you can be a relative expert. You know more than others, but you may not be the highest expert in the land on a certain field, but you do know more than others, and you know more than many beginners in certain fields. In that case, you would be a relative expert. Now, I've heard the definition of an expert is that there's somebody who lives more than 10 miles away and they carry a briefcase. Now, let me give you an example. Years ago, I went to Australia, and while I was in Australia, I was preaching at several different churches, and I spoke to some Christian school conventions that were organized during that time. Well, I lived more than 10 miles away. I think I had my briefcase with me. But I remember at one place I was listening to several of the preachers that went before me, and what they said was good, and it was scriptural, and it included a lot of facts, but it seemed to be a little bit dry in some instances. When it came my turn, I threw in a couple of stories. They were true stories that illustrated the point. While I was speaking, and I have 2 explanations for this, but while I was speaking, I noticed that people were paying rapt attention. Before I got too proud, thinking, oh, I must have been doing a wonderful job speaking, I finally realized that they were just having to listen extra hard so they could understand what the guy from America was saying. But I did throw in a couple of stories, and people did seem to enjoy that. I remember after the service, I shook hands with a lady, and she looked at me and she said, "You are a wonderful American evangelist." Well, some people are experts, and you can be a relative expert in certain fields. Oh, you may not be at the top of your field. You may still be in the process of learning. You move from being a student to being one who is gaining experience on those certain areas, but still you know a lot more than those who have never done that before, and you know a lot more than those who are beginners. In those cases, you are a relative expert. And you can acknowledge that. You can acknowledge that you are somewhere along your journey. You have moved from the status of student, but you're not the #1 expert in the world on this field, but you have learned some things that you would like to share with your audience. And then state number 3, you can be a well-experienced expert. The more time you spend doing something, the better you get. And the more time you spend doing something, the more established you become as an expert, an experienced expert. Now, the more people there are who acknowledge you as an expert, the more comfortable you become in talking about yourself in that way too. Now, I have a doctor's degree, but for many years, and I never insisted on anybody calling me that, but for many years, sometimes it felt a little strange to refer to myself as Dr. Carney. But then I started teaching several college classes over a period of several years, and I just became known as Dr. Carney. So I finally got comfortable with people calling me that. So as you gain more and more experience, and the more people who acknowledge you as an expert, the more comfortable you feel with that. And then when you have much more experience than many others, not just a few others, but many others, the more you will feel like an expert. So, how should a beginning speaker move forward from here whenever it comes to marketing themselves and talking about their speeches and what they speak on? Well, they should realize that you can have credibility by honestly describing what stage you are in, or describing your interaction with a topic. If you are in the student stage, you can just acknowledge that and say that you are ready to share with them what you are learning. If you're a relative expert, you can acknowledge that too, that you may be young in the process, but still you know much more than you did in the beginning, and you certainly know much more than many people in that field who are beginners. In that case, you are a relative expert. And then if you have been at it for years and years, and you have many people who acknowledge you as an expert in the field, then certainly be comfortable in describing yourself that way. Now be humble and be careful about how you would ring your own bell. You don't want to do that, but you need to get comfortable with it. So realize that you can have credibility by honestly describing your interaction with a topic. The main idea here is that you can describe yourself with integrity without having to feel like an impostor. Now, if you're one of the beginning speakers who is sincere about wanting to really make this work for you, then let me invite you to be comfortable with the knowledge and expertise you do have and keep gaining more. If you would like more tips like these on speaking, writing, coaching, marketing, and marriage, go to randysblogs.com. This has been another session of Walking with Randy. Randy Carney saying goodbye until next time. May God bless you.